This is my extremely simple way of gluing up miter joints that involves only blue tape to clamp them. We're going to need our 4 pieces. This is a sliding lid box, so the front piece is shorter. We're going to need our base. These are just dados in here for the base and lid to slide into. We're going to need some water, some glue. I use Titebond for this, though I've heard some people say Titebond doesn't work well with walnut. Never had that experience. A mixing spoon or knife, and a paintbrush. What we're going to do first is take a straight edge, preferably as long as possible, or at least the length of your pieces all laid out. We're going to make sure we have our pieces labeled, and we are going to lay them down. I generally like to do the bottom this way because we will eventually be flipping them over. So that's side 3. Side 3. This is going to be side 2, 2 to 2, and then 1 to 1. Now the idea here is we want them as straight and in a line as possible. We're going to take our blue tape and we're going to connect these. I start out with just one piece, but we'll eventually add more. Right in the middle. Push them tight, push them down to the straight edge, and press it over. I'm going to continue this for each one of these. Down, tight, over. This last one here, you may have a bit of tape hangover, you may not, depending upon how big it is. Down, tape, over. And then we're going to put one piece on the very end of this as well for when they connect in the end. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to very carefully flip them up and flip them over. These should all line up nicely. Should not be any gaps. You shouldn't be able to see through. I'm going to take a chance to clear out the inside of these so we have nothing blocking the way. The key to this method is to use slightly diluted glue in water prior to putting your main glue. So I don't really have a ratio for this. I'm just going to put a squeeze in there. You can always make more. We're going to put a little water in there. It's a little much. Basically, we want to have this glue pre-soak into the end grain because we don't want all of our actual glue, our main glue, to just disappear into the end grain. And we're going to start out by essentially painting these on the inside. I'm going to try to cover all the spaces. If you get a little on the inside of the box, have a towel and some water to wipe it down. Titebond 3 is water soluble, so it cleans up pretty nice. The insides of this have all been sanded to 320. So keep going, cover the whole thing. The reason I like Titebond 3 as well is that it's got the longest opening time of the normal Titebonds. They do make, I believe, a high glue and something else that have an even longer time. Just keep going, keep putting it on there. You're going to see it just disappear into the wood. That's good, that's what we want. On Titebond 3, you've got roughly 10 minutes. Obviously, watering it down or having it soak in will give you a little more. Try not to make a huge mess, but if you do, as soon as you're done spreading this, come back with a wet paper towel. One key as well to this is when you pre-sand the insides, try to take as little material off as possible so that those miter joints still line up. If you take a bunch off and it's not perfectly even between all the sides, they will not line up as well. I've learned this from personal error. I'm gonna go back, just give a little more. I want to just keep soaking in there. Try to get as much as you can in there while still being within your working time. Some people allow this to sit for quite a while. Some people allow it almost to dry. I don't like to do that, but I have no idea whether it matters. I just like to get the glue up done in one go. A little more cleanup. All right, now we're gonna take our base here. This is just poplar that's been stained with a cherry stain. We're gonna make sure we know the orders. So when we put the glue on, we're gonna flip these around, okay? So now we're gonna go get the regular glue. We're just gonna put a squeeze in there, decent squeeze. You're gonna get squeeze out on the outside, that's okay. You're gonna sand it later. Don't be afraid about putting a little too much glue. It's better than not enough. You don't wanna starve these joints, especially on miter joints. I generally do not put a spline in mine, so I'm extra judicial about the straight glue up. Spread it around. Ideally, we'd like to get everything covered. I'm a little more careful now because I don't want to have to go put more water back onto this to clean it up. If any little debris gets in there, pull it out. Your joints will not close well if there's anything in there. If you've put too much in, just take a little out. Back and make sure you've got as much of it covered as you can. Surface area matters here. I'm not applying much to this because I don't want to go too over for where these meet. And once it looks like you've got a pretty good job, just take one last look, clean up any spillover. Make sure there's nothing inside. Take a little more, move that away. Ideally, you want to see glue sitting there and not have it all soaked in. If you see a bunch soaked in too far, you've got enough time to add a little more. Do it now. And I think that looks pretty good. All right, so now we're going to do the flip close. Make sure you've got your extra tape handy. I'm going to put this, I like to do it in the end first. Get it roughly centered. My base is just a floating bottom, so there's no holding it there. We're going to go up one. We're going to line that up. We're going to go over. And we're going to go up. And these should meet, if you've cut your miters well, pretty darn good off the bat. Got a little squeeze out there, we got a little squeeze out there. A little squeeze out on the inside. Like to take a hobby knife and try to get as much out of the inside corners as I can. Ideally on these, I actually don't want to have squeeze out on the inside. If you apply the perfect amount of glue, this is one where I don't really want squeeze out because it's hard to clean up in these corners after the fact. But it will be hidden on the inside anyways. Alright, now we're going to really make sure these have lined up well. And go back, pull these tight if you're not getting the perfect alignment. I like to add another piece of tape. If you have any gaps in your miters, you can always fill those in after the fact. A little sawdust and glue. These aren't too bad. With that. As you can see, the blue tape allows you to put actually a fair bit of pressure while you're squeezing these together. In the long run, miter clamps may be worth it if you do a lot of these, though I find that with boxes, it gets pretty expensive to buy enough of them to do a larger box. Pretty good meeting there, we're pretty good there. I like to use blue painter's tape as well because it comes off easily and doesn't mar the wood. And I see a little squeeze up in the back here. Just going to clean that out now. It's right in the back corner of where my lid is going to eventually sit. So I want to take care of that so I don't have any issues with the lid. And overall, I'm pretty happy with that. We'll let that sit 24 hours. And if you did it correctly, it should hold together for a very long time.